fucking chair. Oh. Welcome back. Eric Caddy, Everyday Hustle. So it's been a little bit of a hiatus, a 3-month sabbatical, if you will. I decided not to record for a while. And there's not really any good reason as to why. Really just excuses. Probably a good excuse. So as I talked about a few episodes back, and you're really going to have to dig back into the library for this one because it's been a minute. I got promoted to a senior director position back over the summer under new leadership. And I had complained under the previous leadership that I was not being utilized, that I was just director in title only, and I wasn't empowered, and I wasn't able to, do what needed to be done to make the company successful. And I kind of regret ever complaining about it because I got everything I wanted. I'm empowered. I'm trusted to bring not one, but 2 new channels to fruition. And I'm basically kind of, left to myself to just go make shit happen. And it's a beatdown. I thought I was working long hours and working hard before, and this is ridiculous. I start early every morning in my office, and then I get Judy up and I take her to school or speech therapy or whatever. I come back to my office and I sit here in this very room for 8, 9, 10 hours until I get off my fat ass and I go pick up Judy, and I either take her to swim lessons or I bring her home and I make dinner and then have a little bit of family time. And then I most nights come right back here and end up doing some form of work before I go to bed. And it's arguably not healthy. Unfortunately, I don't have much of a choice. And again, I will preface for anybody in my organization that happens to be listening to this, I'm not complaining. I'm not. I actually kind of thrive in this lifestyle with these goals and, putting a high risk, high reward challenge in front of me. It gets me going. What sucks is everything else kind of takes, the sideline. I've been very, very conscious and aware to make sure that, being a dad and a husband and all that does not come second to work. But everything else, my personal health and fitness and recording this podcast and all kinds of other shit, is just kind of been put off to the side. And it's going to get better. I already know in my 2021 budget, I get to hire some folks, and I'll be able to delegate out some of this work. And a lot of the heavy lifting that I've done over the last few months is about to, turn into some software that will make things a little easier for what I'm trying to do in my organization. And so that's good. It's funny. I was in the car last week over PTO, and I was thinking about this. Like, I complained under the previous leadership for the better part of a year that if they would just trust me to do what I know needs to be done, and if they would just, listen to the input I had to give, and if they would just let me do what I do best. And here I am eating my words going, well, shit. I guess the grass isn't always greener. Well, that's actually a lie. My happiness has been much higher under my current leadership than it ever was under the previous. And that's not to shit all over the previous leadership. While we didn't see eye to eye, never like to see anyone lose their job. But my current boss is a fucking rock star as far as empowerment and trusting and just, supporting where I need it. Otherwise, just saying he's got it. Let him go do what he got to do, So yeah, that's where I've been. It's been a little nutty. Like I said, lots of long hours. But it's been bugging the shit out of me that I had not recorded an episode in a while, and the ideas were still being written down. And in the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, I started getting, some comments here and there from coworkers and friends and family going, "So you're not doing that podcast anymore, huh?" I was like, "Well, no. I mean, yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. And whether it's the podcast or working out or whatever, I need to be better about just being disciplined in a rhythm and, keeping it going on a daily or weekly or, bi-weekly cadence, whatever it may be. So yeah, I decided to stop dicking around and we're just going to, throw some shit against the wall tonight and see what happens. In other news, for those of you who give a shit about my nerd on nerd shit, a couple of things have changed in the last couple of weeks. I have complained for a while that my almost 7-ish year old MacBook Pro was starting to show its age. In fact, when Mac OS Big Sur came out, I, like every year prior, downloaded it immediately. And as soon as I thought the update would be done and I came back into my office, I saw it was locked up on a screen, and it was all downhill from there. I ended up getting Big Sur to work. But then, the next day at work, Microsoft Teams was locking up and I couldn't get, multiple things to work at the same time. And so after a couple of days of fucking with that, I wiped the hard drive completely and went back to the previous version of Mac OS. All while I've known for a while that I was going to get a new MacBook, and I've got the Acorns app on my phone. So every time my debit card gets swiped, it rounds it up to the dollar, and puts all the roundups into a investment account. And that was my MacBook Pro fund. And, it was starting to get sizable, but nowhere near what the 16-inch MacBook Pro was that I had my eyes on. And all while this is happening, the same time Big Sur came out, the new Apple M1 MacBook Pro and MacBook Air and Mac Mini started to hit the market. And my brother-in-law, Andrew, who's also a giant nerd on nerd shit like me, and also an Apple fanboy like me, we're texting like schoolgirls back and forth going, "Are you gonna? I don't know. Are you gonna? I don't know." My response was, let's see what the reviews are, because, if you're migrating away from an Intel chip and going to, your own in-house silicon, there's going to be issues. And it didn't make sense because the price tag on the new MacBook Pro was just dirt cheap. I mean, you're talking a third of the 16-inch MacBook Pro that I had my eyes on. And then lo and behold, the reviews start coming out and it's too good to be true. And the Cinebench score and the Geekbench score are just through the roof. And so my wife, who tolerates my nerd on nerd shit and listens to me babble about shit she doesn't understand and doesn't care about, finally looked at me and said, "Why don't you just fucking do it?" And I know she just wanted me to shut up. And so that was her ulterior motive. But so I did. I found one that was done up the way I intended to buy it, that was available in Texas the day before Thanksgiving. And so I drove halfway across Dallas, Fort Worth with my daughter in tow. And I was so excited. I was going to give her first Apple Store experience. It's a magical place for me. And I was hoping maybe she'd feel the same. And we got there, and the Apple Store is not what the Apple Store used to be. Because of COVID-19, it's walled off, and there was 2 windows. One was pickup and one was Genius Bar, and roped off line. And so you didn't really get to experience the magic of the Apple Store. I mean, I did. I got a new MacBook Pro, so that was cool. So anyway, that was a long nerd on nerd babbling story to explain that I've got a shiny new computer that's fucking fast, and I've been itching to run some raw footage through it and do some editing and play around and see what it's really capable of. Because before I got this computer, when I would record one of these episodes, I would get it edited where I'd like it to be, and then I would hit render, and I would leave and go to bed and wake up, and sometimes it was done rendering and sometimes it was still going, and I got a hunch that that's probably not going to be a problem anymore. So also, I've been procrastinating a lot in recording a new episode. And in that time, while I've been writing ideas down, I've also been doing some, research on how to better my cinematography, my audio recording. So we're trying some new things here, including some, if you're watching on YouTube, some different lighting, some color accent behind me, I've got it where I used to have both of my panel lights facing at me. Now I've got one kind of facing away, shining on this wall here. And I've turned the tone a little more yellow on the one looking at me, and also brought its brightness down, and it created a whole new effect. And if you don't believe me, go one episode back and then go here and back and here and back. And anyway, I've done a lot of procrastinating so that I wouldn't have to record. But at least it's kind of helped me improve along the way when I finally decided it was time. So really, I've babbled on now for 13 minutes about nothing other than to let some of y'all know, hey, I'm still alive. I'm still here. I did also write a blog over the Thanksgiving break, and it was about leaders' guilt. And the blog tells a short anecdote about in one of the channels that I'm currently standing up at my organization, there was kind of an oh duh moment of, we've got this problem, there's an obvious solve to fix the problem, and there's an obvious bridge to get us from A to B. But that bridge was going to be a little complicated, and the idea was mine. But the action to make the idea come to fruition had minimal effort from me. I was really just checking in weekly, making sure things were on track for our deadline. And then the night before the go live, I got leadership and different departments on a call and had a NASA style go, no go, final checklist before we flipped the switch. And it was really cool. It was the first time in this organization I'd been able to quarterback a project like that. And so it was really cool. But about a week later, I got this box in the mail I was not expecting. And I open it, and it's got this, handwritten note from my boss on very fancy stationery that just said, hey, you made the transition from, Y to Z look very easy. So here's a token so that you always remember how easy you made it look. And it was one of those, Staples easy buttons that when you hit it, it goes, that was easy. It was really nice. It was cool because, just like in relationships, you have love languages. I firmly believe you have love languages in your career as well, or motivators. And for me, my number one motivator is compensation, but my number two motivator is recognition. And so I appreciated the recognition, but as soon as I was reading this note, I just felt immensely guilty because I made it look easy, but I really didn't do anything. It was my idea. I helped quarterback it to the goal line, but I didn't do any of the heavy lifting. My sales operations team, some support from inside sales, some IT folks, they did all the hard shit. and they did it quickly and they did it efficiently. And I was just the schlub watching it, and I got to say, go, no go, go, no go, go, no go. All right, we're go. Flip the switch. And so I felt really guilty. And it's funny because I never want to be the one to take the credit. I've always believed that the people who work for me and with me deserve as much or more credit than I ever do. And that I will naturally rise up as others rise up with me. And I don't need that, fame and I don't know. It's not my thing. Like I want others to be recognized for the actual work that was done. So I go read the blog post. I much more eloquently explain it there because, I had time to put my thoughts on paper, and, a good friend of mine helped me edit it. And I haven't read it in a week plus, so I'm just kind of pulling it out of my ass as I tell you about it. But funny enough, my old boss, Chris Kennedy, who we had recorded an episode with, and then it got pulled down for reasons that I'm not going to get into because they're kind of bullshit. But he texts me and he goes, "Hey man, I liked your article. You can't say shit like that. If you want to move up, you can't let the people above you see that you're weak." It wasn't actually written that harsh, but that was the sentiment that he sent. And I just kind of laughed because I love him to pieces. But it's very much, two different generations, two different mindsets, and two very different organizations too. The organization that I came from and that he's still at versus the organization I'm at now. And even more so the organization I'm at now with the new leadership that is fucking awesome. So anyway, I tell you that because as I try, and I know if you've watched every episode, I say this all the time, and then I say I'm not going to go 4 weeks without recording an episode, and then 3 months later I reappear out of nowhere. But my intention is to get as much bang for my buck out of this very expensive shiny new laptop. I'm committing to writing a blog post once a week. I'm committing to recording an episode, hopefully once a week, maybe every other week. We'll see. Life's a little nutty right now. But that actually is a great segue to the last topic I'd like to talk about, because I might actually be able to hold true to my word for at least the next month and get an episode and a blog out every week, because I'm taking a shitload of PTO. Our company is, they did it a very archaic way before, and they're transitioning to a new way of doing PTO. But long story short, in the old way, you had your PTO and then your personal days, and then what they called float holidays. And the float holidays and the personal days didn't roll over at the end of each year, but your PTO did, which is dumb because mine's maxed out because I rarely take time off because really I can't in my current role and my limited headcount. Otherwise the whole world stops when I leave, which is kind of arrogant to say, but I'm not that important, but it really is kind of the truth. It's literally me and one employee currently who works for me. And then, I've got some support in other departments, but that's part-time because anyway, I took some PTO. I took the whole week of Thanksgiving off, which sucked in the regard of normally I take PTO to go somewhere, not my house, and do fun things and drink in excess and, just enjoy myself. And the week of Thanksgiving, I literally just stayed at home and I rested and I worked out, and then I got to go to the Mac store and buy, a new computer and play with that. But my wife made an interesting comment at the end of that week of PTO. She goes, "I've never seen you turn off the way you did this week," which is true. In the 7 years she and I have been together, I've never gone on a PTO or vacation break where I wasn't still reading emails, still taking phone calls, still working, in the early morning or before I go to bed. in the week of Thanksgiving, partially because it was a holiday for everybody else and they were all checked out, but partially because I really needed some me time. I completely checked out. I maybe checked my email once or twice the entire week. I let every call go to voicemail. I just recharged, and it was kind of nice. And I used to feel so guilty if I was, not staying on top of my work even while on PTO. But my new boss, who, if I haven't mentioned already, fucking kicks ass. A couple of weeks before I even took the PTO, he had just gotten back from a week of PTO himself, and he told myself and my peers, the team of 4 that report directly to him, you got to take time off. You have to truly take it, enjoy yourself. Everything will still be here when you get back. Don't work while you're on PTO. It's worthwhile, and it's important to me as your boss that you do this. And I thought that was, well, I've been programmed through multiple organizations to go, first and foremost, that's a trap. But then, as I was getting ready to leave for my week of PTO, he and I were on a one-on-one. It was literally the last phone call on the Friday before the week of PTO. And I told him, like, hey man, if you need anything at all, you call me. I will answer. I promise. And he goes, well, I appreciate that, but I'm not going to do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was nice. I cannot stress enough. Well, and so I guess the second part of that is, because I had these like 80 hours of float and personal days that weren't going to roll over into the next year, I took the week of Thanksgiving. I'm taking basically every Friday in December, and then the entire week between Christmas and New Year's. And so I'll have all this time to, write blogs, record, work out. Very Jersey Shore sounding experience. Except for the writing blogs. I seriously doubt that the situation writes a blog. But yeah, I completely forgot. Now all I can think of is like the situation, sitting in front of a computer, drinking a glass of wine and writing his memoir. So yeah, that total brain fart, completely derailed. Listen, I'm struggling to keep all the balls in the air. And if you are a avid listener and you really, really like my content, I'm sorry that I went basically MIA for 3 months. If you're expecting it to get better, I honestly hope I stay true to my word. But please don't be disappointed if it's 2, 3, 4 weeks between episodes, because shit's a little crazy right now. So on that note, I have run out of bullet points on my shitty little cocktail napkin of notes, and the notes actually went away because my computer timed out, which is something I'll have to adjust on my shiny new MacBook Pro. Really, I just wanted to record an episode to brag about my shiny new MacBook Pro that I have, and my nerd brother-in-law does not. So for the first time ever, I have it before him. So nana boo boo, stick your head in doo doo. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. It would mean the world to me if you like this video, if you press the subscribe button. Another one I learned over the week of PTO is there's apparently a little bell button that you hit and it'll notify you when I put a video up. So click that fucking thing too. I'm Eric Caddy. This is Everyday Hustle, and I promise the next one won't suck. Mm-hmm.